Good morning. It is August 11th, 2023, and this is the OSU Turfgrass Team Times online this morning with Pamela Sherratt and Dr. Xiaowei Wu. I would say that from a grass growing environment in the last probably 10 days, conditions have become very, very favorable for growth and recovery from any of the damage and problems that we've seen during the latter part of July when we were getting hit with high temperatures and rainfall. A lot of lawns looking very, very, very nice in northern Ohio. We've had timely rains, and we've had temperatures that have not been on the extreme end. And some of our plots, actually, when we were out at the Northwest Research Station over in Custer this week, really the fine fescues and some of the tall fescues were looking absolutely outstanding. With that in mind, the fact that we've had the ability to recover, we have things to think about. We're getting close to fall, and so Pamela Sherratt's got something to take us into as far as renovations and thinking about what we need to be doing. Pam, take it away.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Nangle. So what I wanted to do is just talk real quickly about soil modification. So next Friday, we're going to do a live Turfgrass Team Times, and I will be talking about how to modify soil prior to seeding. And so we have this fall renovation series that the whole turf team is involved in right now. So Dr. Carr last week posted about, I believe, taking soil samples and understanding the what soil fertility levels you have and how you can best prepare your seed bed or your soil for renovations in the fall. I'll be taking that one step further and talking about soil modification. And so ideally, soil modification is something that we would do prior to seeding. So I'll give you an example. So let's say you have an athletic field that's relatively poor soil, a silt clay loam, it doesn't drain, it's compacted, and you want to renovate. Well, as part of that renovation process, you're going to modify that poor soil. So ideally, you would kill the existing vegetation, you would bring in a material that would help the drainage, and that might be sand. You might decide to go to a sand cap or a sand-based field, but it might also be organic material. And I know some school districts like Worthington for many years would have a mixture on their of their root zone and their top dressing that was 70% sand, uniform medium coarse sand mixed with 30% of comtil, which is a biosoliid compost. And so an alternative is to include some organic matter, and ideally you would till that into the top few inches of the root zone, and then you would reseed from there. Now let's say the scenario though is that you inherit a new turf, a new sward, whether it's in a home lawn or a sports field that again is poor soil. It might be a new construction of a lawn where the it's subsoil and rocks and very low in nutrients, or it might be a new sand-based field that there was not a nutrient program added to the growing period because it was done by an outside company, it was not done in-house, etc. So again, I'm going to give you an example. There's been a lot of construction in my neighborhood right now, putting in sidewalks and ramps, and a lot of the gardens, a lot of the yards were seeded by companies that came in. The soil is quite poor quality. There was no fertility program. And so a lot of our lawns in my neighborhood are looking like this right now. So you can see the picture on the left. We can actually see clearly the rust that we have going on here. A lot of the lawns have rust, which again is a disease that's usually will present itself if we have low nitrogen conditions. And then you can see the picture on the right, the grass is chlorotic, it's kind of yellow. It's not, as Dr. Nangle said, most lawns are looking great right now with the amount of rain we've had. If the grass starts to look yellow or chlorotic, chances are it's hungry. It's an indicator of low nitrogen conditions. So what can you do? Well, in an immediate situation, you can go out and you can apply a fertilizer, a granular fertilizer, and that could be a synthetic fertilizer or it could be an organic fertilizer. And you would put that out now. It would be ideally 50% at least slow release because it is humid and hot and we don't want to cause too many problems with disease. But you could go out and you could remedy this situation fairly quickly with a fertilizer. Another thing that you could do is to top dress lightly with a compost material. And so we're very lucky in central Ohio that we have a lot of resources for compost. So if you are looking for materials, we have Price Farms up there in Delaware that they have a whole host of materials. You can go through a third party soil mulch companies. We've got several of those around the state that can help you choose the right compost. I've personally done this in my yard where I brought in a product called Comtil, which is a biosolid human waste product from the city of Columbus. It's mixed with a bulking agent. In that case, it was wood chip. It's important to have a bulking agent if you want to improve the soil. So we don't want to be going out and buying, you know, a bag of peat moss from a store, bringing it home and putting peat moss on your lawn. If you want to improve the drainage capabilities and the porosity and everything else, you want a compost that has a bulking agent in it, like wood chip. So Comtil's a good one. You know, there's yard waste compost. There's one called Zoo Brew, which comes from the animals at Columbus Zoo, mixed with coffee grounds and other types of things. So a cool website you can check out is findacomposter.com. You put your zip code in and it tells you where all your local composting facilities are. At this time of year, I would not dress more than about 1/4 of an inch onto your lawn or your grassy areas, because some of these composts, especially the biosolids, the ones made from human waste, can be quite high in salt. And so, you know, don't overdo it. Again, and again, some of these organic fertilizer and compost materials can be very high in nitrogen and phosphorus. So be careful what you're applying. Don't over apply again, because you'll get the same problems with over applying that you would with fertilizer, i.e. disease issues possibly. So it's something to investigate. We'll talk a little bit more about this next week. We'll have some better resources for you and some fact sheets. But, you know, like I said, short term, get out there, get some fertilizer on this. That will help take care of the rust problems as well. Long term, unless you improve the soil, this is going to continue to be an issue. So think about soil modification from a top dressing standpoint versus a, you know, strip the vegetation and till in the material. Top dressing can work just as well. When I did this in my yard several years ago, I think the effects from the Comtil lasted about 18 months. And I didn't have to fertilize my lawn in that time. And I'll show you some cool pictures of that next Friday when we're live. And then lastly, Ed, I know I've probably taken too much time already, sorry. But lastly, September the 12th, I want to put a plug in here for the SFMA, the OSFMA Fall Field Day. It's going to be at the Hall of Fame Village in Canton, Ohio. So it's going to be a great day. We've got academic speakers lined up. We'll have some credit. We've got our professors from our turf team will be there. You get to look around the Hall of Fame. The OSFMA have got a great day lined up. So I'd encourage everybody to go. It's going to be a great day. You can sign up at ohioturfgrass.org, and I hope to see everybody there. That's it from me. Thank you, Dr. Nangle.
Thank you, Pam. Much appreciated. Yes, it is that time of year when renovations start to become top of the list and things that people might want to do to their lawns. For those of you who've been looking at grass that seems like it's dead and not growing, and it's yellow and lying down and matted, most likely that's rough blue grass. And so in about a month's time, it'll all recover and you go, oh, it's not dead. Unfortunately, it'll do the same next year. So it's one of those that you're going to have to work out to get rid of. Dr. Wu, what we got on the insect disease front?
Good morning, everyone. Since recently I have received several inquiries about white grubs control, and today I'm going to specifically talk about white grub sampling because it's approaching about that time in the next couple of weeks. So screen share. So I will talk about white grub sampling in lawn, sports fields, and also the golf courses separately because the method is slightly different. And for lawn sampling, I would say that we usually use the pattern about a grid pattern in the home lawns and sports fields. Home lawns, it take about samples using a standard cup cutter every 6 to 10 feet apart, and sports field about 10 to 20 feet apart. If you continuously find more than one grub in several adjacent spots, that means that that's a hot spot and need to be treated. So, so one grub per cup cutter sample equals about 10 grubs per square feet. So remember that for annual white grubs, our treatment threshold is between 6 to 20 grubs per square feet. So that falls into that category. And the time to sample, usually we do that around mid-August, but this year we have a delayed white grub activities, possibly because of we have recently seen also the flights of the mischievous adults. So there was a delayed adult activity this year, and because of that, we will possibly have delayed white grub activities as well. And for golf courses, we can use zigzag patterns or transact patterns, something about for 10 to 15 feet apart for zigzag patterns, or 10 to 20 feet apart for the transact patterns. Same standard applies if you find more than one grub per sample in several continuous spots. That means it's a hot spot and need to be treated. And so some people are wondering about how's the benefits of preventive control versus late season control. So for preventive control, we usually apply them it's recommended to apply between June to early August. So at that time, we're actually treating them before the white grub shows up. So for that, there's an advantage is that we can pre-treat and to prevent the late season damage, but and also it doesn't need that much labor for grub sampling stuff. But there's some disadvantages that because we need to treat before the problems actually shows up, so we don't know which part we have problem or not. So that means we need to spray a large area to make good coverage. And also that means we need to use more insecticides and more costs. And also because you cover a large area, there doesn't leave much place for the natural enemies and pollinators as well. So that might have some side effects on these non-target organisms. And on the other side, for late season application, we usually apply that after mid-August. So by doing that, because at that time we can do scouting, do sampling to check if the grub problem is there or not. So they are now to do spotted treatment instead of large coverage area spray. So that means we can use small amount of insecticides, only treat the hotspots, and also reduce costs and side effects on the natural enemies and pollinators. But on the other side, it's more labor intensive. You need to put another labor to do the sampling and the checking. And also there can be a risk of early season damage. And that's what I have today. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wu. We are without Dr. Carr today, so the links for our various contacts are not up online, but remember buckeyeturf@osu.edu is our email address. And then we do have the usual social media handles. And Dr. Pamela had something to say. You got a finger up there, Pamela?
I do. It suddenly occurred to me that I needed to add this point, and it's a very important point. I'm not suggesting that if you have a sand-based field that you start an organic program. The golden rule of sports turf is you match, you always top dress to match what's in your root zone. So I want to make that clear. We're talking about renovations and you know, programs, different root zones for different situations. Of course, lawns are very different to sports fields. Native soil fields, very, very different to sand-based fields. The golden rule is you match what's in your root zone. And if we're going to amend the root zone, then we would have a big conversation about that. So I wanted to make that clear, Ed.
Thank you, Pam. All right, folks, with that, we will have a link sent out via the various associations during the week for Turf Team Times Live. Again, you have the ability to ask us questions and put us on the spot, and maybe we can answer things that have been annoying you all summer, but the idea is to help. So with that, we'll leave it there, and we will see you all next week.
Can I add quickly something?
Yes, Dr. Wu.
I will be out of office from late August and throughout September for maternity leave. So at that time, I will not be able to join the Turf Team Times, but I will still occasionally look at emails and messages and try to respond as soon as I can. Thank you.
Well, I think Dr. Wu, most people would say you have more important things at that stage in life to be worrying about than emails. So you focus on the good stuff and we'll carry on.